Direct action for rights and
Direct
equality.
action for rights and
Direct
equality.
action for rights and
Acción
equality.
directa por los derechos
Direct
e
action
igualdad.
for rights and equality.
Direct action for rights and equality.
Direct Action for Rights and Equality, or DARE as it is best known to the members of the Providence community, is a member-based community organization whose mission is to organize low-income families in communities of color for social, political, and economic justice. DARE was founded in 1986 by families in Providence's South Side who joined together to have a voice within the decision-making processes in their community and to undo the systems of oppression that are the root causes of the problems in their lives. Over the past 30 years, DARE has used direct action, leadership development, and political education to make the changes they wish to see in their communities. This is but a glimpse of what DARE has worked on and accomplished over the past 30 years. In 1987, DARE organized families who lived near a run-down, abandoned playground to demand that the city of Providence renovate it for the neighborhood's young children. With Miss Maddie L. Smith at the helm, a group of 75 parents and children marched into the office of the Parks Commissioner and laid out their demands. Through this action, DARE members forced the city to renovate the playground, which was eventually renamed the Maddie L. Smith Tot Lot to honor the campaign's leader.
The tot lot that's actually named after her is because we used to live in that house directly across from that. So growing up, that's where my entire family played. And it had gotten run down over the years. The city wasn't taking care of it, along with a lot of other tot lots around the city. So that was the beginning of the campaign, where my grandmother gathered a lot of the neighborhood kids, and we went down to City Hall and said that we need a safe place to play because we didn't have that. And it gathered a lot of steam. A lot of people in the neighborhood came behind the campaign. My grandmother, along with people from the neighborhood, the kids, some adults, went to City Hall and started a protest. They started an action. I think because there were so many kids, and there's newspaper articles about what happened, and it's like a few adults but a lot of kids. And I think that's what made the impact, because that particular campaign empowered neighborhood children.
I mean, we walked from door to door trying to get places and people to help us do these things. We had a lot of help after we started.
I'm not so sure if that campaign would have been as successful had it not been really the voice of the kids to do that. And my grandmother, along with some of the other adults who managed that campaign, were the ones who empowered us to stand up for us and gave us that voice.
And it's hard for you to get out there and help yourself. You say, well, I can't help myself. Yes, you can, but you don't know how.
Right.
That's the worst part it is about the whole thing. You can always get out there and get somebody to help you.
But that's why DARE is so important, because DARE has always been the voice for the voiceless. And it's always been a place where people who felt helpless have learned to help themselves. I think it empowered the kids. And some of the kids in the neighborhood didn't even know that it was possible to create change. So I think that campaign was actually helpful on a lot of levels.
I think there's probably a lot of people nowadays that don't realize what an impact DARE's made, not just in the lives of so many people and in different campaigns, but in terms of building a movement and the movement history of Providence and of Rhode Island as a whole. I mean, you think back to 1986, there were no community organizing projects, no people's organizing projects with such a direct vision around racial justice. So in a lot of ways, DARE was the first group to really sort of take a model built on membership, built on, sort of the nuts and bolts of grassroots community organizing, using direct action, but do it fiercely from the beginning, with an analysis on racial justice. I think one of the victories that I think back on during the time I was at DARE with just so much joy and amazement is the victory of the family child care providers, or daycare mothers as they identified, especially at the beginning, that forced the state to give them health insurance. And this group of ladies, and primarily in their 50s and 60s, who had been doing this hard work of childcare for wages that went way below minimum wage. And the state depended on them. This was during the time that sort of welfare reform was happening. And here was this very convenient workforce and the state was intent on exploiting them even more. And the child care provider said, you know what, we need to have health insurance for the work we do.
So the most important thing about DARE to me, it's hard to pick just one because there's a whole lot, but I think I would say community power. DARE is really about bringing together the community members to say, you know, we have a vision for what we want to see in our communities and for what we deserve, and that we're going to fight together to make that vision a reality. There's tons of examples of amazing campaigns and victories. One that I was really honored to be able to work with DARE members on was the living wage campaign. And even though we didn't pass the living wage ordinance in the city, we won some really amazing victories where low-income, mostly women of color who were working for the city, for the school department as teaching assistants, were making a minimum wage and no benefits, and were not even considered permanent in their jobs, won twice the wages. They won health benefits and pension and permanent hiring. These were all important fights that I learned a ton from and that was really proud to be working with people on. To summarize some of the work that DARE did around parent organizing, some of the things that really stood out to me that I know Jania is going to be able to talk more about is bringing parents together to demand greater access to the information about what's happening with their children's education, and particularly language access, because there's a lot of parents who don't speak English and they weren't getting information either in writing or verbally from the school department that was really necessary for them to be able to engage. And also, it was really important to have a parent organizing group at the same time that DARE was doing youth organizing around the schools. So really seeing the intergenerational connections was powerful.
Llegamos un grupo de padres preocupados a DARE dejándoles saber la preocupación sobre el lenguaje y la comunicación entre padres y maestros, la cual no era favorable porque uno no sabíamos hablar nosotros en inglés y ellos no sabían hablar el español. Pero en la campaña del lenguaje tuvimos varias reuniones, varias protestas porque interrumpimos varias reuniones de escuela. Una fue en el departamento de escuela, que queda aquí en la Westminster frente a la Clásica. Llegamos ahí que había una reunión muy importante con los líderes del departamento, la cual DARE tenía que estar involucrado y no nos invitaron, pero nosotros llegamos a la reunión al departamento y nos tuvieron que dejar pasar. Y al dejarnos pasar, pues había una madre, la cual los líderes que estaban ahí, especialmente los líderes latinos que estaban allí, como que no querían dejarnos participar, y hubo una madre que se paró y daba en la mesa y dijo: a nosotros nos escuchan y nos escuchan y nos escuchan, y por no decir nombre, mencionó el nombre de un líder que estaba allí y le dijo: y usted va a tener que callarse y dejar que nosotros hablemos. Entonces nosotros hablamos, y después de esa reunión nos dejaron hablar, y después de esa reunión pues nos aceptaron, y ahí fue que el superintendente que era Danny Evan cede y nos recibe en su oficina para que habláramos con ellos y les dejáramos saber las preocupaciones de por qué nosotros estábamos en esa lucha. DARE no se cansa, DARE sigue y sigue y sigue luchando, y le dejamos saber a él que el código de conducta estaba mal y que la información que nos estaban dando por nosotros padres no teníamos la comunicación que teníamos que tener con los maestros, con los principales de escuela, porque no estaba en nuestro idioma. Fue importante, una, porque Dare escucha las preocupaciones, se entera de... Y no solamente que nos escucha a nosotros como padres, sino que ellos ven que eso es algo prioritario para el crecimiento de una comunidad. Pero para Dare fue mucho y seguirá siendo mucho, porque los jóvenes encuentran aquí un apoyo y los jóvenes y los padres también encontramos un apoyo, y saber que vale la pena luchar. Y es una puerta que se abre y es una puerta que Dare le está dejando saber a su comunidad: nosotros estamos aquí, y junto con la comunidad y nosotros como líderes de Dare sabemos que podemos lograr y luchar.
I was going to summarize the campaign that DARE did around 32F, which was around probation violations. The way that I would summarize it is, it was a way to have a particular win, to try to keep some of our community members, and we were seeing so many community members, and especially communities of color, ending up in prison, a way to keep people out. It's part of a bigger vision that DARE had developed around questioning the whole prison industrial complex. And we found that this was a particular opportunity to say, you know what, people who have been on probation and then were violated just because they were arrested but never actually found guilty of the new arrest should not be in prison.
Well, the most memorable about 32F, what I can remember, was we was at the State House, and I worked for another organization before that. Before DARE, I was working for Family Life Center. And so the Family Life Center, which DARE was involved, a part of, but I was working with Mimi Butnock here at DARE. And so we came up with this idea to show the legislatures how many people is affected by the 32F. So we had different color ribbons that was strung over the Montando, and it was like big long lines of these ribbons that were all different colors, that people names was on these ribbons, and these people was highly affected by the 32F. And I had my African drum, I had some drummers, and we was drumming, and a lot of people that was, mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts, that was daughters that was speaking in behalf of this new law that we was trying to change at the criminal justice system level. It was such a beautiful morning that it struck a chord within the State House that they never seen anything like that when we put on that day.
His future is to keep educating the young as well as the old. Because if you don't know where you come from, you can't know where you're going. I think DARE needs to keep fighting for two junctions. One, to show our children from the past and our children of the future that if you don't stand for something, you end up being nothing.